Good morning. What the fuck is up, pals? If we haven't met already, hello. Nice to meet you. I hope you're doing well. My name is Willard, and this is Twinkle Dads. Twinkle Dads is a hybrid mix between Midwest Emo Mixtape on YouTube and the Dear Sally advice column in your local newspaper. People, hopefully you, send in questions asking me for advice. It could be about anything: work, relationships, philosophical questions, whatever is rocking your boat at the time, and I'll answer them very candidly and openly. And then afterwards, I'll pair them with a few songs within the emo, punk, lo-fi realm that I believe will help your situation. And yeah, of course, this is a show that's designed for the listeners because I want it to be about you fully. I think that talking and communicating about this stuff is like one of the most beautiful avenues that humans are capable of. So I want you to know that this is a safe space. My heart is open, and hopefully yours is too. If you ever want to contact me or email me to and ask a question that I will answer on a future episode of Twinkle Dads, you can email me at twinkledad69@gmail.com, or, and this is an announcement, DM me on Instagram or Twitter at Emo Advice Show. You can also follow and support us through there. So please feel free to get as open and as guttural and as vulnerable as you want, because it'll be okay. You'll remain anonymous, and so that the priority will be your emotions and feelings. Once again, you could email me at twinkledad69@gmail.com, or DM me, follow me, whatever, at Emo Advice Show on Twitter and Instagram. And so, yeah, I finally decided to make social media for this platform because we're about a month in to recording the podcast, and genuinely, like, the support and reaction so far from y'all has meant a lot. It's really funny. It's going like how a podcast should go, and now I'm just like, okay, time to get more serious about it. Maybe I'll get a better mic in the future. I will. But right now, the priority is just to be as straightforward as possible. And so, yeah, y'all have been very loving and receptive of these episodes, and it's genuinely only looking up from here. However, I'm still looking for new questions because, like, people ask me what I would do if I don't receive any questions, and it's a good point. But when I ran Twinkle Dads as a blog and a radio show, there were a lot of questions that I actually never used, for a variety of reasons. I tried my hardest, but you can only write and do so much at a time. So yeah, these questions that I will be answering today will be unanswered questions from previous iterations of Twinkle Dads. And then next week will not actually be a questionnaire, but it will be a conversation with a close friend that I'm very excited about. We tried to record yesterday. A bunch of horrible things went wrong that we'll talk about. So it will be recorded and it will be up as the next episode because, I'm moving to a new city, and that's going to be fun and exciting. It's all wide open eyes. So that's just going to be a meditation and conversation about leaving home, hopefully to never return again. So yeah, I'm still looking for questions. It's like funny because since I've like started Twinkle Dads, or I started telling people, like, I was like, hey, I'm bringing Twinkle Dads back up as a podcast. A lot of homies, like, I've been giving advice more than ever and hearing out people's problems, but like a lot of it in person. And I've been told multiple times, like, oh, I was thinking about like asking, like, I was thinking about emailing you this so you can answer it on Twinkle Dads, but I'm just going to ask you right now. And it's funny because I don't know what to do in that situation. Like, of course, I'm just going to, like, prioritize you. I want to hear you out and all that. But in the back of my mind, of course, I'm like, okay, but how can I eat too? Like, I'm not going to be like plugging my podcast in the middle of someone having a very tough time. But that just keeps happening. But, whether or not people are submitting questions, It's all looking up Millhouse, and I'm very, very excited. So, yeah, so we're going to get into two questions. The first one about dreams, and then the second one is going to be about cutting out family members. Oh, topics that affect us all. And before we start, I'm going to kick us off with a brand new song from Swiss Army Wife. It's the first track off their new album, Medium Gnarly, and it is This Number Is Not in Service. If you don't know or haven't garnered by now, I'm not super into sticking within the confines of Midwest twinkle emo on this show because I find it very limiting as someone who just, loves the genre and have spent a lot of time listening to it. You can only get so far and you can only break so much new ground before you just start running in circles. Even with like fifth wave email, you can listen to so much before it just becomes a lot on your brain and ears. And so I found out about this band through they played the best house show venue ever in Tacoma with a bunch of sick emo bands. And I listened to this track, and the best comparison I can make to it is Traveler by I Killed Giants. And because to me, that's the ultimate emo introduction song. It just has the energy and it just sets it up perfectly. It's so compact, but it's a lot. And I've always held that high in the canon of like what I love about emo and what emo does. And I believe this Swiss Army Wife song is the closest thing to that. Like, yeah, which I dig a lot. It's exciting to be excited about new music within the genre. So please go check out their album. I promise you it's worth the listen if you're into good old twinkle fifth wave emo. But yeah, so this number is not in service by Swiss Army Wife. And I'll see you for the first question. Thank you so much, and I love you.
Don't call me after hours. Don't call me. Loose threads will be devoured. Space fills up. I need to take long showers with a glass up. Hey, wait, someone's trying to reach you. Maybe it's somebody that you once knew. Don't seem to recognize the number. Commitment slowly seem to drag you under. Just stay behind. Yeah, you'll be fine. Just stay inside.
Sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
Dear Twinkle Dad, weird dreams of old relationships that I've cut off are becoming super frequent as of late. Should I take this as a sign to maybe rekindle them, or is it just a coincidence? Some are sexual relations and some are just old friendships, but they are ones that didn't end on a good note. Thank you. First and foremost, I hope you're doing well. I think, dreams is just such like a funny topic, and I think especially because everything about its interpretation and its handling is very subjective. Everyone believes that dreams have like different meanings, and so I'll lead off with what do dreams mean to you? Um, because there's always some of those people who just believe that dreams are like mean like, oh, you dreamt you were a bulldozer. That means you want to destroy everything in your life. A lot of that Freudian psychoanalytic, like hooey booey, honestly, I think it's kind of nonsense. No offense if you believe in that, but it's like I believe that's just looking too far and too analytically at the human condition, which I think no one should do, because it isn't human. That isn't a human way to handle things. Then there's the belief, which I err on the side on, where it's just like dreams are dreams are the like is your brain communicating or your subconscious to you. You see people that you might haven't seen in a while, and then a lot happens, and while those specific interactions don't mean much, it's the setting that you're in that's just like, okay, maybe it's something I don't actively think about day to day, but it is something that affects you. And I believe that dreams do have that power to just kind of open up what you don't think about. Because people tend to kind of choose what they think about. And that whenever you have intrusive thoughts, they just kind of shut it down so they don't have to think about it more. And I believe that's just such an artificial way of living, and that dreams are fun because sometimes it could be nonsense, but sometimes it could be something that will lead you to a decision. Or it will be like, maybe I should handle this situation in reality. And then there's the people who believe that dreams mean nothing. So there are three different camps that you can fall in. And before you decide like how to move on with your relationships and whether you should keep them out of your life or rekindle, just really try to assess the meaning of dreams for your, how you define dreams. So just think about that. Um, and so, yeah, I think, just because someone appears in your dreams and you haven't seen them or spoken to them, or like it ended badly, doesn't mean that isn't an automatic, like that doesn't automatically mean that you should bring them back into your life, because there's a reason why you cut them out, and why you cut them out. So just kind of assess that. I believe the best way to do this, the best way to process it, is just assess everything. Of course, there are many different techniques on how you assess. Something I would recommend, especially if you fall in the first or second camp of dreams, that at least means something, is practice automatism. That's a surrealist technique originated by the French opium thinkers like Andre Breton, Salvador Dali, all those cats, where they believed that having your essentially letting all the intrusive thoughts flow in your brain and spilling it out with no curation or tailoring of thought patterns is the most straightforward way of human communication, of truly speaking on the human condition. So that's why there's a lot of in a lot of films and stuff, people falling out of the mirror, a lot of that surrealist imagery. It's because they believe that's just buried down deep inside of us, and by allowing that to live and fester in the environment around us, we are truly expanding how human we are. And take that as you will, but I think, and I have done it in the past, I have personal experience with it, that there is there's a healing power to doing that kind of meditation, because you're truly thinking, you're truly going through what your brain actually thinks about. A good practice is automated writing, where essentially if you journal or you have a diary, which I always highly recommend, sit down and just start writing. You can stare at the tree, and when you're staring at the tree and writing about the tree and you're not really thinking about what to say next, you're just letting it all spill out. So something will pop up automatically. Something will just budge up, and that's just going to land on the page. And that's fine. And you just do that and you spill it all out. And I think it works in two different ways. One, it kind of gets a lot of things off your chest that maybe you didn't realize that you have, and that it's good to actually, like, when you speak them out loud, they're actually kind of real, and that how you feel about them, is a valid feeling. And I think the second one is also, it establishes how you see everything around you, if that makes sense. Like, it establishes your point of view and how you understand your opposition to other people, and it defines, like, who you think you are in relationship to everybody and everything around you. And I, like, I don't mean to mean to make it out like human interaction should be transactional, but it's a nice way, because like, what if you don't actually like how you view everything around you? In this case, what if you actually regret cutting out that person because you did? you know like, it gives you effort to grow and change. You can bleed the good and the bad out at the same time. And then you're just kind of separating the like blood particles out to make a difference, and to, keep what you want to keep in, and then just leave aside what you want to get rid of. And so do that. And after, or when you have just really tried to find out what your authentic emotions really are, assess what how you feel about those relationships, about those old friends. Because I can guarantee some might be mistakes. Sometimes we are all just victims of circumstances, and because of that, relationships fall through the cracks. Other times, someone definitely did something wrong. Everyone does wrong, but there's one person who's probably going to be the bigger offender. So I would really recommend just kind of cataloging what you want to keep in and what you want to keep out. you know, Reaching out to the people you want to keep in, that's just another heavy step, because it's like, how do you go upon that? But I believe if you are confident in how you feel about it, and if you believe that your understanding of everything is true to you and true to the situation, then nothing should stop you. You're at the edge of the diving board, and you should just simply jump in. And with the other people, if it's like more toxic circumstances, definitely neither of you should have each other in your life, because everyone grows, even the toxic people grow. And if you believe that you had done something wrong, but you understand that it'll hurt your healing and it'll hurt their healing, or vice versa, then just leave it be, and that's okay. No one's really going to fret you on that. um but yeah, and I think just throughout all of it, and finding, in processing, you'll find your authentic emotions. The major, like, concern, warning sign I must give you is, be careful not to open wounds that haven't scarred over. In theater, we were taught, in theater, in a consent class, we were taught the difference between scars and wounds as just like, metaphoric emotion. And so, there might be a toxic situation in your past, but it's like something you haven't fully processed or become comfortable thinking about or handling or dealing with. So you, like, in the automated writing, and if you decide to dive deep into that, just be careful that you might just open up a new wound, and you might cause more harm than good. I think I definitely am someone goes who goes into wounds pretty carefully, like, or I go into wounds more than the average person, I would say. And I believe, like, because there's power to that, sometimes you just shouldn't be afraid. But because of that, like, you need to be confident to do that, because it will just kind of break you down. Like, unless you think about cold, like, if you're able to think about stuff very coldly and analytically, and be hardened about it, then do it. If you're confident enough in your own emotions, then, I believe that's kind of like a wide safety net that you can just jump into and find out a lot. But, you also must have the ability to know when you've gone too far and you need to step back and have boundaries. And then there's scars, which is, like, oh, here's something on my skin, but, it's definitely something that hasn't affected me in recent memory, and those are easier to dance around and handle. And so, you know, when thinking about those relationships, do any of them seem like an open wound? If so, maybe let it scar over, like assess it at a later time, because, if it's a wound, it's going to be very harmful to both of y'all. People will be hurt. And it's good to be hurt, and sometimes it's okay to suffer, but that's just not worth it, especially when it's very preventable. But if it's a scar and you really just kind of understand that you are able to be mature about it, then please just go for it. Nothing's stopping you. You have my full support. And because I want you to be like the best person you can be, I want you to live with your heart on your sleeve and just kind of let it grow and manifest and let all that love just, flood everything around you. So, yeah, so hopefully this helped. But, like, I think most importantly, take time for yourself. Prioritize yourself and prioritize your emotions, because that's okay. This is a time that's kind of like perfect too. But do it in a way where you aren't contacting them or harassing them. Give yourself time for solace and solitude. And so yeah, so it's just all about processing it. And I believe maybe give it more time to process. Because sometimes dreams don't really communicate the truth. They just communicate an idea. So yeah, when I was thinking about what songs or like how I want to sequence these next tracks, it felt best to pair them all together. Um, I recorded this part earlier, but I'm re-recording because I struggled explaining the songs because I had the same explanation for every song, and it just got really, really redundant, and it took very long. So I'm just letting you know that these four songs together are personally what I understand dreams to be and can help you with the surreal etherealness of those dreams for you. It's definitely going to be a bit moody. It's going to be shoegaze, lo-fi, hip hop, indie, but they're all like genuinely, I think, amazing tracks that have helped me in similar situations because they kind of communicate things that aren't real, but they are because they're like mental states and they're just kind of the dizzying flurriness of life. So yeah, so the four songs are Loveless by OK, which is an old song from like 2007 that personally not enough people have ever listened to. And it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound a bit quirky, like it belongs in a Noah Baumbach movie. But bear with me because I believe it will at least hit one note at one point. Followed by that is Fred's Song by Lil Rosie, which just came out. Detroit lo-fi that just kind of goes more into the fuzzier production side, but talks a lot about reconnecting and growing as a person. There's a really beautiful line about handshaking when it's knocking at your door. Following that is They Are Gutting a Body of Water's Jada Kiss. I could have picked any track that they've ever done, especially off their new album, Lucky Styles, which I highly recommend. But, if you know Tagabow and you know their discography and you hear Jada Kiss, you get what the point is. This is how the production is so beautiful, and how I conjure billions of dreams. That's just such profound imagery, and it's beautiful and it's sick, and everyone I show the song to loves it. And then following that is Pink Mabel's Paradiddle, another song that has definitely been a thing because it kind of has like this the dreamy lo-fi production of it, but it also just talks about the intimacy of conjuring dreams, the intimacy of handshaking when knocking at the door. And then for this one, it's the intimacy of playing paradiddle on your chest and that person disappearing. So I hope all four of these songs, or whatever I said, brought some sort of healing or insight into how you handle this. Yeah, thank you so much for opening up, and please let me know. I mean, you don't have to, like, how it goes. I'm wishing you the best, and we will all see you soon. Once again, this is Loveless by OK, followed by Fred's Song by Lil Rosie, followed by Tagabows, Jada Kiss, and then Paradiddle by Pink Navel. Thank you. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon.
You slept in my bed after you said I need to sort out my head. I need to sort out my head. So we didn't, we just talked instead. But my blood, it still has to be red. It's still gonna go wherever it be led. Now I can't get you out of my head. Now I can't get you out of my head.
but I wasn't sad. I knew what I wanted, and I had that desire. Like nothing was gonna stop me. Nothing.
That's powerful.
And I had
Yeah.
traveled all around and noticed it was all the same. The thoughts in my brain, dude. It was the totems that kept me floating and tethered. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better. And I went inside of my room and I went outside of my room through the door. And I went inside of my room and I went outside of my room through the door. And I went inside of my room and I went outside of my room. And we had split the room and we had split the room with the next walls. Yeah, but I am back to say thank you. I am back via my track. Via my track. Yes, I am back to say thank you. Via my track. I played paradiddle on your chest. I played paradiddle on your chest, and then you were gone.
I had such a different experience with your father as being a musician than I do with you. And I never, and that frightened me. Because he took it the wrong way. He took that career to the wrong place. But also because you were so young. I mean, I let you go to Warped Tour at 12 years old. What was I thinking? Seriously.
Well, I mean, you know.
And I just remember going, through this for years with them, and my father saying to me, "Why do you love him?" And I said, "Well, why do you love anybody?"
So you wanna be a hero, kid? Well, whoop-de-doo. I have been around the block before with blockheads just like you. Each and every one a disappointment, pain for which there ain't no ointment. So much for excuses. No one's kid is Zeus's asking me to jump into the fray. Well, my answer is 2 words. Okay.
Dear twinkledad, how do I/should I broach a subject that might ruin my relationship with a family member? They are making a decision that I think is bad for them and will affect me in a negative way as well. I am worried that if I approach this wrong, I may very well ruin our relationship completely. I feel like I need to say it regardless of the potential fallout, but I am still nervous of the potential fallout. what should I do? First and foremost, thank you. I will make an admission when I was like drafting how I should answer this question. I came to the realization that I was a bit off tonally. I thought, I all of my prep work kind of deals with cutting out family, so that's definitely a thing. But so sorry if like some of this is a bit too extreme, but like, I believe you bring up a good point. Like, first and foremost, it's okay that you're nervous. It's reasonable to be nervous. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we understand family. We're always told that blood is thicker than water, and therefore you should always like respect blood. But because of that, I feel like a lot of families kind of do this thing where they kind of, because you like need to hold up blood in such a high regard, that families will carry on their own tradition of harm, whatever it may be, throughout. And that like if you try to distance yourself or you try to like separate yourself from it, they're like, you can't run away from your family because that's who you are. And so I get like feeling nervous about that because it is your family. It is definitely, if you had the situation with a friend, it would be quite different. But no, you know there's like kind of no greater crime, supposedly, according to everybody, than betraying your own family. So I'm sorry that you're stuck in that situation, first and foremost, because it's just, heavy, heavy. And I think in order to like process it, I would say think about your relationship with said family member. And also just like, if they weren't your family member, who would they be to you? Because this deals a lot with relationship communication. You're preparing yourself to communicate. So the question is, how do you properly communicate? And so, kind of address like, how close are y'all? Do y'all have like a long history? Is it like cousins similar in age? Is it like, aunt, a nephew? Maybe. I don't think you're that old. But think about it. And I think, have y'all had any trouble together in the past? Like, have they had behavior similar to what's going on? How did you handle it that time? And just like, all of the questions you need to just kind of prepare yourself with how to move forward. Like you said, it's affecting you. It's their own decision, but it's heavily affecting you. Therefore, you're kind of stuck in this shitty position of having to prioritize and utilize your own feelings in order to um, address them and in order to confront. And that's not ideal. That's never necessarily fun. I can't think of anyone who like loves to do that, but I believe you can definitely just kind of break it down. Give yourself enough distance where you can honor both yourself and how the person feels. Keep in mind that how they're seeing what's going on is very much different from your perspective. They aren't seeing it two-dimensionally. They're whatchamacallit? They're justifying it with their own view of empathy and justification for what's going on. So allow yourself to think of that justification and to think why they're doing this. How so? And like, what's the impact of it? And then, this might sound horrible, and I feel like it's clearly not what you're getting after because you are nervous of the fallout. But if this person wasn't your blood, would you still maintain a relationship with them? Like imagine them as like a person who's just like on the street or you go to school with. You know, get rid of the connection y'all have. Are you like, they're a piece of shit? They or is it somebody that you still like want to maintain a relationship with and be close with? Because it's like, when you say that you're nervous of the fallout, are you nervous of the impact of the fallout, or are you actually nervous about losing them? Because like interfamily fights, those are never done clean, and those just have such a huge blast radius around you. So like, your parents are going to get involved, everyone who knows everybody. So it's definitely like a sticky situation. But it's like, do you actually concern about losing this person in your life? Because they're doing, like, it's their own choice. Everyone has autonomy. But whatever the choice is, it's still affecting you. It's stripping you away of autonomy, and you should be able to make the choice of whether or not it has impact on you. And so, yeah, I think definitely sit on that. That's all. Just like ask yourself those two questions as we start like getting into the next two songs, and then I'll just give actual advice afterwards and then close the show off. But yeah, does this person actually matter to you as a person? Or are they simply just family? Nothing's wrong behaving in your own self interest because apparently they are. And so, yeah, so when I was like thinking about which songs to pick, I picked a very curious selection of 3 songs, maybe 4, if I feel like including it. We'll see when I record the next part. But yeah, there's definitely no sonic quality tying them together. More so, it's the energy and the topic level. The first song that I'll be playing for you is "Do You Understand" by Gerlo. They're, I believe, a Dallas-based noise rock band. They honestly kind of sound very twee. If you're fans of like, Indian Summer, K Records, if you ever listened to music from Olympia, Washington, um, yeah, they're very much in that realm. But it really just kind of repeatedly asks the question, do you understand? If you were to grab this family member and to be like, I understand that this is your choice, but this is how it affects me. Do you understand? And so that's why I picked it. Also, it's a good song. And Gerlo definitely has a lot of potential, just like blowing up in the near future, whenever that may be. Then following that is, it's more in the post-hardcore realm. It's Ghost by Squint. They dropped 2 EPs this past year. They're very much in the drug church. You'll hear the guitars, but I think there's one line that kind of sticks out. Like it has such a ferocious energy to it, like solid production. It's straightforward and it just like cuts to you. But like, the mixing of the vocals is very interesting because the line that sticks out and the line that motivated me for picking this for you is this anchor is yours to carry. The, think about the anchor. Think about how much of a heavy weight that is. And so, when that person wants to make a life ruining choice for like both of y'all, that anchor is yours to carry. So you have the very straightforward energy of Gerlo, followed by Squint's just explosive punch that I feel like paired together communicates the same thing. And it allows you to give yourself time to process. So yes, definitely think on it, and then we'll talk about what you should do to move forward, possible tactics to help both of y'all. Because keep in mind, it's affecting you, but it's also ruining their life. So try to balance mindfulness, sense, and sensibility. So yeah, this is Do You Understand and Ghost by Gerlo and Squint, respectively. Thank you so much. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Howdy, welcome back. Did you enjoy the songs? But most importantly, did you think about what was going on? Every time I record, after I record a segment, I just listen to the songs to just kind of, set myself up in the same space because, you and I are no different, and that's just how it is. Like, we are meant to kind of share those emotions together. So I guess like when thinking about it and when thinking about what, I believe you should do is just kind of said it before, but like, you know, at this point, you just got to be straightforward in your communication. Um, and it's like definitely be mindful of what they're going through, but at the end of the day, they kind of picked a fate for you. Therefore, how much respect should you actually give to their problems and to their feelings, which is like kind of a horrible thing to say, but it's reasonable. I think it's okay if you all had a falling out. The fact that it reached this point that you needed to contact an outer party, not shaming, but like, like the fact that it's reached this point where it's pressing, like if it wasn't a big thing for you to talk about, then you wouldn't be, asking questions. And that's okay, like, yeah, you always gotta put your emotions near the top in terms of like your priority list. And I think that's just simply what you should do. It's a very scary jump, I believe. But, as long as, like, at the end of the day, you are making an informed decision, you run risk of just, like, creating more harm the way you go about it. So just, ask for a time to speak to them. Sit down, and I really would recommend just kind of like outlining what you want to say, but do it in a way that's pretty flexible to their response. There's probably nothing more grating than when people like bring up a whole list to say, it's like, please don't speak. I need to get like my whole mind off. My whole mind off my chest, all this off my chest, whatever the saying is. And it's not like that's a bad thing. I don't necessarily think it is, but this is a conversation between you two about you two. If it was just a conversation about the other person, it would be a bit different. Kind of your feelings have no place in there. And don't, I think genuinely, like, I hate that this is the closest thing I can draw a comparison to, but in regards to emotions and trying not to be selfish when another person's in the time of need, I recall, I recall when people like threaten to take their life. You like how casually I brought that up? But when people threaten to take their lives, there's such an interesting phenomenon that's like almost preventable, where those who are hurt by the person trying to take their life, their main justification why that person shouldn't go through with it is how that action would affect them. Ironically, it's calling suicide a selfish act is a selfish thing. Calling someone's depressed state a depressed state is a selfish thing, because it fully is. And I think, all due respect, if I was in your family member's shoes, and if you were to kind of pull up only thinking about your emotions, especially in that moment, I would just kind of pie face you and ask you to be elsewhere, because there's like, so many tricky and differing like levels of respect, and you need to give respect to yourself, and most importantly them. The family member is just not an object. And yeah, like I said before we started listening to those songs, find a balance between sense and sensibility. that you're able to just kind of think carefully and honestly about it, but don't let it be built up so much in your head, or don't let or like don't quite clearly think it through. Don't just go wildly in there and just say some like out there shit. So yeah, you definitely got it, and I think you will be okay after this, whether you have a falling out, whether it ends up being peachy keen. No, there's a reason why you care about this person so much. There's a reason why their decision affects both of you, and you don't want the falling out. Keep that as a reminder why. Keep that as like a top reminder when you decide to speak to them. Share that love. It just go back and just like be like, here's like what I value and here's what I don't. And I think that's important. That might be the most important thing to maintain in the relationship. And it took so late to get to there because it's just, there's a good reason you do this. Try your best to spin it in a positive light. Don't use shame. Use honesty and openness. And if they might actually be in a time of help, and you could be the person that helps them. But at the end of the day, it's just right now you're stuck in a constant cycle between just like everything you could possibly do and what the outcomes are. So with that, that's like the major reason why I picked the song. It's Christian Right by Institute, a 8 minute like droning post-punk track from maybe one of the more exciting punk rock bands to come out of the 2010s. It's a sick song, and I think with family, there's always a huge thing with conservative families, so that's kind of why I picked Christian Right. But when listening to the song again, it's almost just kind of like endless. Like I want it to end sooner, but it doesn't. Neither will this. It's a funny note to leave upon, but there's not a good note to leave upon on this because you were just building up to a situation. You're not dealing with the aftermath, you're dealing with the buildup. So let this be your buildup. Let it be something that rings in your head over and over and over again until the fallout has happened or any consequences. I hope you're well. I hope that, this brought some resolve and may motivate you in another way. If it doesn't, feel free to ignore it. I get it. But, you got this. Family's tough, and I feel like losing family is also tough. Especially when you kind of have a choice to lose them or not. But, I believe that it will be fine. Because you are mindful of their emotions, you are mindful of your own. And that's genuinely a lot more than any human can ask for. I love you, and I hope it goes well. Truly. Maybe don't tell them about Twinkle Dads. Maybe don't play this last song for them. If someone pulled up to me and I had kind of no idea what's going on and they play Christian Right by Institute, I would kind of not care to speak to them. Yeah. Yeah, I would just straight up ignore you. So don't mention this. This is our little secret. Yeah, thank you so much. And if you did not ask a question today, please keep in mind that I am just so open because I want this show to be about you, the listener. I want you to know that my heart is open and hopefully yours is as well. We are in this together. You can email me at twinkledad69@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter and Instagram at Emo Advice Show. Once again, twinkledad69@gmail.com and at Emo Advice Show on Twitter and Instagram. I hope you are well, and I'll see you soon. And I hope you have such a good night. This is Christian Right by Institute. I love you. Bye-bye.
bitter lies, bitter lies, bitter lies. Ah.